Hi everyone, and welcome to our next lesson in our GCSE Maths Foundation course. Today we're going to be looking at powers and roots. So this is an important part of the spec. Won't be a long lesson, but it's important because these come up a lot throughout the rest of the lessons. So what are powers? So powers are a shorthand way of writing a number multiplied by itself. So for example, if we had 2 to the power of 3, so this little 3 in the top right that we write smaller is our power, then that actually means 2 times 2 times 2, which equals 8. There's a few special cases that we have to remember. Anything to the power of 1 stays the same. So if we had 65 to the power of 1, that's just going to give us 65. Anything to the power of 0 always is 1. So 34 to the power of 0 equals 1. Even if we had 537,000 to the power of 0, that would still give us 1. 1 to the power of anything stays as 1. So in this case, 1 to the power of 527 will still give us 1, because all we're doing here is we're doing 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, 527 times, which of course is just going to bring us back to 1. So there's 4 easy rules when it comes to powers. The first one is when we're multiplying numbers with powers, we add the powers together. 3 squared times 3 to the power of 5 is going to be 3 to the power of 2 plus 5. So you can see that there's a multiply here. So we can add the two powers together. So 3 to the power of 2 plus 5, which gives us 3 to the power of 7, which when you work on our calculator gives us 2187. So an important thing to note here is that this rule only works if the number to the power of is the same. So this 3 and this 3 have to be the same. If this was a 3 and this was a 4, then we couldn't apply this rule. When dividing numbers with powers, we do the opposite of what we did when we multiply. So instead of adding the powers, this time we're going to subtract the powers. So here we have 5 to the power of 8 divided by 5 to the power of 6. So that's going to give us 5 to the power of 8 minus 6, which is 5 to the power of 2, which is 25. When raising one power to another, we multiply the powers together. So here we have 2 to the power of 3, all of that to the power of 4. So that's going to be 2 to the power of 3 times 4, which is 2 to the power of 12, which when you work it out on a calculator gives us 4096. When we have a fraction with a power, we apply the power to the top and the bottom. So our example is 2 over 3, all of that to the power of 3. So we're going to apply this power to the top number and the bottom number. So that's going to be 2 to the power of 3, all over 3 to the power of 3, which gives us 8 over 27. There's one more slightly trickier rule. So when we have a number that has a negative power, there's a small process that we have to follow. So say we had 5 to the power of negative 3. What we're going to do is we're going to take the reciprocal, which means that we're just going to flip the number over, and we're going to turn this power from a negative into a positive. So 5 to the power of minus 3 becomes 1 over 5 to the 3, which is 1 over 125. So let's look at an example here. So this is typical of the type of exam question that you'll see during the GCSE Maths Foundation. So here we've got 5 to the power of 5 times 5 to the power of 3, all of that over 5 squared. And the question is to simplify this equation. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify the top. We're just going to look at the top part. So we can see that on the top we've got 5 to the power of 5 times 5 to the power of 3. So we can use our multiplying rule to simplify this down. So instead of 5 to the power of 5 times 5 to the power of 3, we're going to do 5 to the power of 5 plus 3. So we're going to add our powers together, which gives us 5 to the power of 8. Now we're left with the division. So we've got 5 to the power of 8 over 5 to the power of 2. So now we can use our division rule, which means we subtract the powers. So 5 to the power of 8 divided by 5 to the power of 2 becomes 5 to the power of 8 minus 2, which is 5 to the power of 6. And that is our final answer. That's this entire equation simplified down. So now we're going to look at square roots. So what are roots? Roots are essentially the opposite of powers. So just as a side note, when we said putting something to the power of 2 previously, this is also called squaring the number. So if we had 5 squared, for example, or 5 to the power of 2, you can use those words interchangeably. That means 5 times 5, which equals 25. So this is what we've just done. This is what we're familiar with powers. So roots are essentially the opposite of this. And what I mean by that is, if someone said, find the square root of 25, first of all, we'd write it like this. So we use this symbol here. So this means the square root of 25. And what we're trying to find is we're trying to find a number that when multiplied by itself 2 times gives us 25. But we just worked that out up here. We know that 5 times 5 gives us 25. So the square root of 25 is 5. We also have cube roots. So cube roots are when we write them like this. So we have the normal square root symbol, but we have 3. And you've probably guessed that this means we're looking for a number that we multiply by itself 3 times gives us 27. In this case, the cube root of 27 is 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 gives us 27. So that's how we find our cube root. And as you probably gathered, you put any number here, and that's the number you have to find when multiplied by itself brings us back to the number under the bracket. So if we had like the 4th root, so if there was a 4 here, you'd have to find a number that when multiplied by itself 4 times gives the number under the bracket. So to help you out with the rest of your GCSE Maths Foundation, it's important for you to learn your square numbers up to 10. So 1 squared, 2 squared, all the way up to 10 squared. And of course, learn the opposite, so learn the square root. So these are just the opposite of that. So 7 squared equals 49, for example. The square root of 49 equals 7. So committing these to memory is going to help you in several different subjects as we continue on through our course. So thanks for listening, everyone. Next week, we're going to be going through standard form, where we're going to use some of the lessons that we've picked up today.